All right, welcome back to the show. It's Mark and Denise in the mornings. As you know, on Monday, Denise is with us. Today, you've got me in studio. We are getting reaction from people who attended the rally yesterday. Over 1,000 people showed up, and I mean, they were in there fired up and ready to go to fight for education dollars, not just for Philadelphia, but for across the state. Even those little small towns and hamlets that people have forgotten about, we have not forgotten about you. Person who was there yesterday, also in the crowd, was Jerry Jordan, who is the leader of the PFT, Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. Jerry, good morning. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning. It's good to be with you this morning.
Yeah, it was great to see you and to hear you yesterday. You had great remarks and comments at the rally. What is it that you want people to take away from an action like this? Why is it so important that we raise our voice?
If there was ever a doubt about the fight for equity in this Commonwealth for children and for a better Pennsylvania, yesterday was a clear showing of people who believe that everything has to change. We can no longer have two Pennsylvanias. You know, you have a group of school districts in Pennsylvania that are the haves, and then you have a group that are called the have-nots. And it's evident by the kinds of things that are missing in the schools for children. You know, the lack of libraries and librarians, the lack of counselors, the lack of psychologists, the lack of nurses, you know, the lack of teachers who are qualified to teach the children, and just so many other things. And the facilities that are old and really ready to be torn down, quite frankly, in some cases. And, you know, we've talked about the Cassidy School. And a little girl yesterday, her name was Miracle, talked about being a student at the Pierce School. And that building is very, very old. And, the baby talked about how awful the cafeteria is and the bathrooms. And she's right. She's right. So what is the message that we're sending to our children and to the members of that community?
Yeah.
That we really don't think that they are important enough, that they're good enough to have the same kind of facilities that school districts like Lower Merion have. I mean, I remember a few years back when Lower Merion community was discussing and finally made a decision to tear down a high school because it was 50 years old. It was time to replace it. They needed a new facility. And I happen to have been able to visit that school, and it is unlike anything that we have here in Philadelphia. And it's not just here in Philadelphia, but you go to the William Penn District, which is right outside of Philadelphia, and, you know, they are struggling. And you go to Erie, Pennsylvania, the other side of the state, and so many other districts within Pennsylvania. The Wilkes-Barre superintendent spoke yesterday, and as he spoke, I thought everything that you're saying is applicable here in Philadelphia. And he listed the number of other districts that are similarly situated. So it was a movement of people, and it made me really think about the history of the civil rights movement and how it required some persistence on the part of those who are fighting for equal rights. And so for us, we're fighting for equitable funding and for fair funding for all of our districts. And I really, really believe that this is really going to take on more steam, and more people are going to get on board and are going to join into this fight.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jerry. And I got to tell you, so I have to imagine that Philadelphia and other cities or towns that are similarly situated that are chronically underfunded, like Pottstown, for example, is it true that those places kind of hemorrhage good teachers, like teachers who have a choice to go somewhere else? Are they leaving those kind of districts and going for places where you have better buildings, better pay, you don't have all the financial kind of burden that it would be to serve in a place like Philly and Pottstown?
Yes, unfortunately, teachers are leaving poor districts like that because there is a tremendous level of stress that goes with not having the kinds of materials that you know that you need to educate your children. And now is a very competitive time in teaching because there is a national shortage of teachers. The baby boomers are retiring and are leaving the profession, and teachers have been vilified over the last several years by legislators, quite frankly, who have passed laws in order to make it appear as if teachers aren't doing a good job, and teachers just are tired of it, and they want to be treated fairly, they want to be paid properly, and by not properly funding schools, it also has an impact on the teachers' salaries, because if the district doesn't have the money, they can't give the teachers any kind of salary increases, and teachers are tired of working without being fairly compensated. They are not asking, and they didn't go into the profession to become millionaires. They know they will never do that. But they want to be paid fairly and to be treated with respect.
Well, I mean, and I don't think that's too much to ask. It's amazing to me.
No, it's not.
Because you hear this all the time. They're like, there's certain professions, and I can relate. I'm a pastor, so there are these professions that people expect that the person in the profession, in spite of the fact that you've gone to school, not just undergrad, but in all these cases have done a master's degree as well, and some have even gone further, that, compensation should never be important to you. It should only be about the kids. Now, yes, I believe it should be about the kids, but a person does have to eat, and a person has to feed themselves and pay off those student loans.
And they have their own children that
Right.
they have to make sure that they're cared for properly and educated as well.
Yeah, I don't, I don't understand how largely the right has been successful at portraying teachers as the evil persons in this story, whereas, and you don't have to say anything, let me say this because you won't talk about your colleagues in other unions, but whereas fire and police get everything they ask for, they don't pay for their bullets, they don't have to pay for tires on their cars, they don't have to put water in the fire truck, they get everything they want. You don't see firehouses that are falling apart, But yet, when it comes to teachers, they are villains and vilified. I just don't understand how we have turned that narrative around. I could never think of Miss Toy, my kindergarten teacher, as a villain because she touched me so much that here I am at 52, I still remember her name.
Yes. And teachers, people tend to, maybe they just don't know, but I don't know of a teacher who doesn't spend money out of their own money to buy supplies for their classrooms for children.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to a teacher recently who told me that he spent $5,000 this year. He's an art teacher, and he said, I don't have art supplies. I can't teach without supplies.
Jeez.
And, that's a substantial amount of money. And, he's just one of countless numbers of teachers across this country, and I know here in Philadelphia, who spend their own money. So you look at the wages that teachers are making and then subtract whatever it is that they're spending on supplies for children and the other kinds of things that they spend money on. When we have cold weather and a teacher sees a child coming in a thin sweater or a thin jacket, and they know they need a winter coat, that winter coat quietly appears for that child to be able to wear at home, the following day or so. And I know a teacher who purchased gloves for all of her children in one of the schools in a poor neighborhood in order to make sure that the children are cared for. And there are teachers who spend money on snacks because they know that children may not have had enough to eat, and particularly they take note of that and make sure that there's the availability of foodstuffs for children on Fridays and on the days before there's going to be a long weekend or a holiday.
Wow. That's sad.
It is, but it's what teachers do, and it's the untold story about the kind of heroic work that they do, but yet are vilified. So, it's a long answer to your question, but yes, teachers do take an opportunity when vacancies exist to go to districts that are going to provide the supplies and have better materials and other things that a teacher needs to do his or her job, so that if they don't have to spend the money out of their pockets, that teacher that I just described who spent $5,000 out of his pocket, he will have increased his salary by $5,000.
Yeah.
But usually in those districts, the wages are higher.
Yeah. Jerry, I tell you, I don't, honestly, my kids, as you know, you saw them yesterday, and you were kind of shocked, like, whoa, who are these women? I'm like, no, these are the kids who've been coming to rallies for about like 10 years.
They're beautiful young ladies.
Yeah, but I just don't know. I mean, it's, my hat is off to the fact that they have had some incredible teachers in Philly. And, I've seen some leave who've gone for greener pastures who just couldn't take it anymore. But again, I don't think we celebrate enough those who really make a big sacrifice, who could cross City Avenue and, in some cases almost double their pay in their situation. But because of their love for this city and their love for children, they stay and tough it out. And we've got to do better in supporting you guys.
We'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we do what we do because we love what we do. And, every child is your child.
Yeah. Spoken like a teacher, Jerry. Spoken like a teacher.
Always will be.
All right. That's Jerry Jordan, head of the PFT. Thanks, Jerry, and thank you for being there yesterday.
Thank you. We'll continue to go there, and we'll continue to fight for fair funding.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Wow. I mean, could you imagine a scenario where cops, in spite of the fact that, mind you, you don't hear very often